Welcome back, everybody, to Fun Fact RC. My name is Wes, and I'm hanging out in the hop shop today. And I would like to remove the motor and ESC from the B64 because the ESC is burn up. We will say, yes, it's burn up. We will save these connectors here. The wires are short. We'll save the sensor cable because it's custom made. And basically we will just get right on to work. I'm going to add a little bit of water to my solder sponge. Keep a clean tip just like your mama told you. And I'm going to start by pulling these wires. And sometimes you have to add a little solder to make it connect real good. Move on down the line. I guess we don't need to have anybody do any safety checks, so everyone should be doing this with your vehicle off, your battery unplugged, your system off. And tinning the iron helps connect it just a little better. And then when your solder gets all the way liquefied, you just knock it right off. Alright, now that pretty much frees this motor up, with the exception of this censored wire. And these just slide right out. The sensor wire will just straight up unplug. Sensor wire plugged in here. If you want to clean up these tips, I may not use this motor again, it was kind of too fast. You can get them good and melted and then rub them off and it'll look like this. Let me see if I can get the camera to focus for you guys. See that? See how that one pad is very clean looking? And when I did that, I just held it upside down. I get my solder good and hot, and I'll wipe it off. And we'll do the third one for you. I get my solder real good and hot, just wipe it off. Just like that. That makes, come on, there we go. And that just makes it look cleaner. You take all the old solder off. And then if you want to make sure there's no solder connecting them, you just run your iron in between them and it will usually disconnect anything connecting the two. That's how you clean your motor up. Then you pull your motor off of the blue mount. That's specific to this vehicle. We will change the mount to this motor. We're going to drop from a 6.5 to a 13.5. I really like these R1 Works motors, and if you notice, the 13.5 has either titanium or aluminum bolts to make it lighter, and also has this yellow ceramic bearing in there. This motor has the Rotor Run full Monty service done to it. I do not set the timing at all. It is ready to run. It gets about 650 more RPMs than a stock 13.5 because of the bearings and the ceramic shields that are in it. We're going to swap these motors. I'm going to pull this ESC, and to do that I usually have something like a pry bar, and I'm pretty sure this ESC is fried, so you don't necessarily have to be easy with it, but in case you want to confirm that it's fried or test it further, you can be careful taking it out. Usually I just find me something that I can pry with, because the double-sided tape, it's not permanent. I mean, it can be undone. It takes a bit of prying though. Steady, long force. You don't want to push it real hard, real quick. You want to apply a generous amount of pressure, You see that didn't, it started to go, but it didn't finish. It's giving way. It's just not wanting to break the tape. There we go. You know, generous force. You got, it's not going to just give up. That's why we use that stuff. I have this tape here that was holding this wire down that I also conveniently ran up under this piece of plastic here. So I will loosen this one, and hopefully it will loosen enough that if I push it forward, I can get my wire through. And it is not. So here is the other one. You can see an indentation. Just rub your thumb over where you think the screw hole is, and you'll see an indentation, and just shoot for the middle. There, it loosened that up enough. I got the wire out. I will tighten that screw back up. There's minimal damage to the scratch pad. There it is. And we'll tighten this one up also, just so that we don't forget to do it next time. And here is the ESC. It smells a little bit burnt. I have contacted the company about if it is possible that they fix it. I did not want to open it or anything. I was going to check with them first. But if they say they can't do nothing about it, I'm sure enough going to open it up and see if there's something burnt out that I can't replace. I will clean up this old sticky tape. I don't want it. All fresh new tape. Alrighty then. Well, excuse me for a second. I had to plug the phone in. We're good to go. Now we have to pull the motor mount off this motor. All right. Take our smaller motor, if that's what you want to call it. All right. There's already Loctite on these screws, so I will just get them tight. Now the motor will seat there. And the Hobbywing, I would like, I kind of would like to seat it in a way where I could get to the sensor cable on this side. If I can get some focus. I mean, I could put the Hobbywing up here in the front too. I don't think that would hurt. Straightens my wires out. The wires would just go straight across like this. I don't know if I have room in the body for that. I liked it when the ESC was real close, like this. That was the shortest wires possible. Okay. I will probably continue to do them like this. And that will cross the orange over there, and the blue will cross over to there. And of course you'll have to hook up the sensor wire first, because it's just no room in there. Very tight. And last time I had to put some heat shrink on my sensor cable and form it like this. And the heat shrink's pliable when it's warm, and when it gets cool it'll kind of hold shape a little bit. So I made this 90-degree censored cable, and I want to go ahead and put it in first, actually. And if we do it like this, the bend will be like this. The sensor cable does have a direction. It does go away a certain way. There is a line inside the clip, and it'll be high or low, and you can match it up to the line on the sensor cable. And I think we're going to run it like this. We will run this wire like this, and make sure that it is plugged all the way in. I want this facing this way. This motor is going to mount this way. My fancy dancy sensor cable is going to go right there, and I think that's the direction I want to mount my ESC. And I will grab the tape real quick. We use Gorilla Clear double tape. It has been working very good. We have not had any issues with it. I like to clean it off real good and make sure the chassis is cleaned off real good. You want to rub the chassis with the alcohol. That helps greatly. Rubbing alcohol to reduce all the oils that may get on it. I have a little bit of extra there, but that's all right. Nobody's going to get hurt. I will round it up the sides even. And I don't know if you're supposed to hold this stuff for 30 seconds or not, but I like to hold my thumb on it real tight for a little while. I never do it for 30 seconds, but I try to lock it on good. Then you want to pull the tape off the back. just like so. It's never that easy. I made that look like a professional. All right, now censored wires are connected. I want my ESC right there, and I'm going to mash it down and wiggle it around. Apply firm pressure without breaking it. And I hold it for a little while just so that the tape sticks really good. Now, the sensor wire is in, and I may add a piece of stick tape to it or some glue so that it does not come out and bounce around, just to make sure those connectors don't come out. Let's pull this down a little bit. I really like the fuel line indicator on the Hobbywing. Wish my camera would focus like that. I do like these fuel line indicators. I'm going to take the power leads and put them over the vehicle and secure them. Just going to wrap them around this shock, stick them up in that wing so that they're out of the way all together. The first wire is the blue wire. That's going to be A, and it's going to go straight to this. I may remove this fan mount also, just so that we don't melt it with the soldering iron, have it in the way. These fan mounts here are custom made by a member of my team named Marty, and I print them. And so far they've been working well for us. We make our own fan mounts. Now that that's out of the way, since I want my wires short as possible, and this, if I put my thumbnail on the outside of the, right there where the mount of the motor is, if I put my thumbnail on the wire and I cut it right there and I pull the insulation off 1/8 of an inch, there's still a little bit of slack in this line here, and I'm okay with that. So where my fingernail is, I will cut, and then I will remove a good 1/8 of an inch of the wires, exposing the wire. All right. Then, with your soldering iron and your old school leaded solder, go ahead and build a little bit up, and you will watch it suck down into the wire. It sure will. Just like that. And then I like to take a pair of pliers, because these wires get pretty hot. And look, you see where I have old solder here. If you did not have old solder, like where I cleaned up the first one, where we cleaned up the motor, if you didn't have any solder there, you just take your solder and your iron and just blob it up like this and give yourself a big blob of solder. That way, when you grab this wire, all you have to do is lay it on top of that solder blob and lay your iron on top of and it'll just slowly start melting. And eventually, it's going to get contact with that bottom blob. And when it melts that bottom blob, you will sink all the way to the pad. Then you just remove your soldering iron, leave the pliers there for a second, because it takes a second for the solder to harden up, and then you let go and you should have a good connection. You want to make sure you have lots of solder blobbed up. You don't want to have a cold solder joint where the solder didn't get hot enough. I know we're never going to focus on that. There we go. And then on to the second one. B is going to be yellow. This one here, just like we said before. And I'm going to pull it kind of tight. I do want a little bit of slack in it, just in case things get to slamming around. I'm going to mark my wire with my thumb again. find my little wire snips and cut where my thumbnail was. Remove 1/8 of an inch of insulation, then tin your wires. And then let's take a pair of pliers. I just like using pliers to hold the wires because some things get hot. And I'm going to apply heat and pressure to the top of this joint. And when it melts all of the solder and the solder connects, I just remove the iron and hold it steady for the solder to dry. Booyah! All right. On to the last one. Number C, orange. Orange is C. All the way to the right of my motor is C. I'm going to pull this wire through here. I want to reroute that power lead wire because I want this wire in front of them. I think that's going to be a cleaner, less stressed look. That's about as clean as I'm going to get this one here. So we will measure your wire, clip the wire, and do how much? Of course, about 1/8 of an inch. 3/16 as I were. And then tin it. Just drop it on there. A big blob of solder. Let the iron heat it. And you will see the solder pull up into the wires. Woo! You guys. And we're back. Well, that was exciting. Goodness. Let's try it again. So, I was going to hold this wire right here. Let the solder melt it on down. And when I see the solder connect, I let it go. Blow sweet nothings in its ear. And that part's done. So I got these power leads left. And sure, you can just go and stick your ends on these leads like they were. But no, you're a racer, so you got to make them as short as possible. So you have your battery that year. This is not the battery that I used to race, but the power leads are on the same side. The positive is always farther. Not always. Yours may be different. I have my positive always farther. So I will pull this red indicator because I want to keep it on there. I do like it. There, how about that? We will start running the battery facing up this way, and the wires will be a little bit longer, but I like the way it makes these wires here look. So I will pull it tight and clip this one here. I will pull the red tight, move the indicator to where it needs to be, and clip it also. There we go. Tin this second one. Sometimes it looks like you have too much solder on it, but then you let the heat set for a little bit and it'll pull some of that solder in. Now, I have these connectors here. Some super duper long connectors. And I will grab this connector like this because I'm so smart and I know not to hold on to this. Hold on to this. Get your solder hot until it lets go. Just like that. And I'll put my connector here and lay my soldering iron on top of it. Just like that. Well, not just like that, but something similar to this. I made some more solder on the, and it helps if you have a good bit of solder on it. You know, something like this, where I have put too much solder on there, is not always a bad idea. It may help to bring them together, just like this. There we go. Now, where's the other one? I have this old ESC here. I'm going to grab the wires like this. There we go. And I'm going to add some solder in there because that just seems to make it easier. Here is my negative lead. There we go. All right, there go the power leads. And that is it. Other than this wire here that I will run under the drive shaft, and I'm going to tape it down with some black electrical tape just like I did the other one. And also what I do is I have a piece of thin foam right here that I like to run on top of this wire. And when you tape that wire, you want it as flat as possible, and you take all the stress out of both ends and you tape it down, and I put a little piece of foam on top. And the foam is just to help the battery ride flat, safe, smooth, all that good jazz. I really think that's going to be all that we have to do here today, everybody. How do you like that? Not too bad. I will find somewhere to stick these power caps. I got lots of wire, maybe right here in the back, about where I had the other ones, and just tidy up this wire up in here. That would be about the most out of the way place, unless they would fit. That is about the only place they're going to fit. That is it, folks. Here is my power wire now. And my batteries will now run backwards from what I'm used to. And you make one of your leads longer than the other so that it won't reach. You want this power lead goes here, but it is impossible to put it in there. that's a fail safe. That just helps everybody from frying their stuff like I have done in the past. Well, that's it, everybody. I appreciate you for watching. I did make an open box video for this ESC, and it did come with an extra fan. I thought that was really cool. And I think that's it, everybody. Thanks for watching. I'm just going to tidy up a few more things and reroute this fan, remount this motor. I'm going to put a pinion on there and get my mesh looking good, and we'll be ready to practice. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Y'all be safe.